What is up, guys? FrostyOsty0232 here today for another Frosty Features. Today we have our last person on the Out of Time team. We are talking about Starbrand. So if you've never been here before, what this is a comic book background on the tunes that you use in Marvel Strike Force. And I'm the guy who's gonna tell you the story, man. Alright, cool. So, let's go. According to Scopely, this is the Scopely blog post description of the character. We will rate this at the end of the feature. So this is: the man known as Vin lived on Earth circa 1 million BC. Deviants attacked him and he fell into a deep chasm where he found the corpse of a dinosaur that possessed the Starbrand, a gift bestowed to Earth by an alien race. Vin absorbed the power, making him Earth's new Starbrand, a powerful protector with godlike powers like flight, immense strength, immense durability, energy projection, and the ability to travel through space. He joined the Stone Age Avengers, where he helped the group defend Earth against countless threats. So, that's that. That is it. Alright. Starbrand! This is the man of the hour. Name: Vin. I believe that's how the pronunciation goes. Ultimately, he's essentially a caveman. So, it also could be Vern. But there it is. First appearance, Marvel Legacy #1, 2017. There was there was big Avengers events going on, and they started showing these different versions of Avengers, and the Stone Age Avengers, the prehistoric Avengers, Avengers 1 million BC. All different things people call them to refer to them. Is one of the main ones, sort of the big one they used to sell everything. Starbrand really wasn't, and that's one of the big things you'll find out through today. Starbrand, this version of Starbrand is not really the main character. He has a really, I think he has the coolest backstory of all of them, but he doesn't have a lot going for him. There's not a lot there. So a lot of my information I pulled from other Starbrands and things like that. In fact, before in coming into this feature, I had read one of the Avengers 1 million BC runs. Then I picked up the other one for this, and then I read a little extra thing on the side, but ultimately he doesn't do a whole bunch outside of his backstory, so we'll get in it. Power/abilities: flight, superhuman, energy projection, and presumed immortality, even though the Starbrands aren't technically supposed to be able to die, but there's always those little ways to get through them dying and things like that. But essentially, they are extraordinarily powerful, and if even disintegrated, they can reassemble themselves at a molecular level. Flight, they shoot energy blasts, and especially in Vin's case, he inherits a whole bunch of... They have super strength, but yeah, we'll talk about it in a second. Aliases, no duel. This version of Starbrand is only Starbrand, and that is what it is. I don't really talk about it later, so I'm going to talk about it now. What I find interesting, especially in Marvel Strike Force, the Out of Time team heavily is legacy heroes. Captain America is a legacy hero because of Captain Sam, Black Knight, Nathan Garrett, Dane Whitman, and Percy. Starbrand also has that is a legacy hero being passed around to different people, right? So it's pretty important to I'm having a moment. I think his name's Kevin Connor, is the famous Starbrand that most people know. So the Out of Time team really could have been if they would have replaced like Captain Carter, it really could have been like a legacy team. Affiliation: Stone Age Avengers only, prehistoric Avengers, same thing. Avengers at 1 million BC. They have slight variations of the Starbrands in all of them, but it's always one character. There's a Stone Age Moon Knight in the last run with them, replacing Phoenix. So there's that. So for context, Stone Age Avengers, we already have Black Panther 1 million BC. He also doesn't make it all the way through. If you watch the Frosty feature, Black Panther 1 million BC, he doesn't make it through he doesn't survive. But it's Black Panther. We've got Odin. We've got Phoenix. We've got a Ghost Rider who rides a freaking mammoth. He's probably the second coolest character. I really like this dude because of his backstory. And then we've got Starbrand and an Iron Fist. It's a female Iron Fist. It's the first Iron Fist. So it's a pretty stacked lineup. They're incredibly powerful. So there's that. Background: an Earthling from 1 million BC. It is what it is. Like that's all we can. That's really all. There's no defined area that they're in specifically in the 1 million BC. They're just back in time, right? So it's really hard to actually lay out a background. He's a caveman, right? He is a caveman who felt that he was different from his tribe, so he walks away to live on his own. And as said before, deviants are attacking. The deviants are essentially the anti-Eternals. So they're essentially they are what the Eternals are engineered to fight, are the deviants. So the deviants are wreaking havoc on Earth, which does lead Starbrand to getting the Starbrand, but the order in the blog post is a little wrong. So ultimately, who died? You can't be a superhero, supervillain without somebody dying, and in this case, Vin's partner, Burke, right? So we'll talk about that here in a bit, but ultimately, the death of Burke kind of leads to Vin getting the Starbrand. What is a Starbrand? Okay, so Starbrand is a Jim Shooter creation, is in the I believe the 80s, but ultimately Starbrand essentially is an object. It's the brand. It's up here on his chest. That signal, it's not just like a tattoo or something like that. That's actually an object that when the brand is passed, excuse me, I did a spicy challenge earlier on stream. Follow me on Twitch at the link above to be able to catch those things, but I'm having a little bit of gas problems. Anyway, the brand on his chest can be transferred from living thing to living thing, and what it is there's a race similar to the Watchers, honestly. There's a race called the Builders, but instead of not interfering, they interfere always. So they're sort of like the opposite of the Watchers. And for every planet that is on the verge of ascension, of becoming like a higher level society, they supply them with a couple of weapons, and it's sort of up in the air how many, but right now we're sure every planet gets a Starbrand, a Cipher, a Justice, and a Night Mask, and these are all different objects, all different tools that are put on the planet to help protect the planet and help its growth. So the Starbrand is so one of them, so it'll be like Starbrand's defense, one of them is collecting resources, one of them is for like advancing science, things like that. So the Starbrand is for defense, so therefore the object, the Starbrand itself, is extraordinarily powerful. And so when it transfers onto a sentient being, they get the brand somewhere on their body, and they can actually move it to where they kind of wherever they want. And really the weakness of the Starbrand is removing that brand. All the power actually does come straight up from this brand. And like I said, they can move it around their body, and they can also transfer it to other people. That's how essentially it passes on. But there is situations where people try to transfer the Starbrand to an inanimate object, which causes a massive explosion. It has to be a living organism. So the second Starbrand of Earth, Vin is number 2. Number 1, there was a T-Rex that so 62 million years before 1 million BC is when in the Marvel 616 canon the asteroid falls and kills the dinosaurs. That was actually the Builders sending the Starbrand to Earth. So when this collapses, a T-Rex is given the Starbrand. So for 62 million years, more or less, well, ultimately there was a Kree invasion pre-humans, and a T-Rex with the Starbrand defended all of Earth against the Kree. So there's that. So that T-Rex eventually dies, and he where his dead body kind of like rots and berries or whatever, the Garden of Eden in Marvel 616 grows there. So on top of the T-Rex's body is the Garden of Eden, and this is where we see Vin and Burke go in their story we'll talk about in a little bit. Hulk looking and sounding dude. So if you know anything about Starbrands, I was actually first introduced to Starbrand and I think it was the Kevin Connor. I always forget his name, but in Heroes Reborn, there's a child Starbrand. Heroes Reborn was how I actually also got into MSF. There was an ad in one of the comics. So I was introduced to Starbrand in that book, and I read it more about them after the fact. And then happened to, read Avengers 1 Million BC just kind of randomly. So, if you know anything about the Starbrand, getting the brand does not change your physical form. For some reason, with Vin, and I assume it's because his predecessor was a dinosaur, but it's not really explained. But when you get Starbrand, you get extreme intelligence, and actually there is rumors, it's implied that Vin actually had super intelligence before getting the Starbrand. So the Starbrand does give you super intelligence, but in Vin's case, he grows into this Hulk-like figure, Hulk being like the Incredible Hulk. You can kind of see it there. He looks like he could be a gamma monster. And he also loses the ability to speak correctly. So he namely speaks in grunts, very much like Savage Hulk, where he can't string together sentences, even though he's hyper intelligent, which I find really interesting. The only people in the Avengers 1 million BC that can communicate with him are Phoenix and Iron Fist. And Phoenix because of telepathy, and Iron Fist, which she does the best. She has the best. She can communicate with Vin the best, but it's not super explained. It might be have something to do with magic. I don't know, but ultimately, yes, he can't speak, and he looks like the Hulk. He's the only Starbrand that has a transformation like that to this recording date. So, relationships. Burke, former lover. That's all we get. We don't, we know that he was a part of a tribe and he leaves the tribe. Burke's in a similar situation, left his tribe, and they hook up and they, kind of move off, but we don't know what their tribe is. We don't know where they are. So all the only relationships I know come back to Burke. And then once we see Vin in the Avengers, we don't actually get much characterization from Vin other than brooding on his situation. So with that, notable events, becoming the Starbrand. So, in becoming the Starbrand, ultimately, Vin is with his people. He is hyper intelligent. He very easily could be the leader of the situation, but he feels like he's different, and that ends up being because he is gay. So he decides that he's going to leave because his cohort, his people won't understand him, so he decides that he's going to leave, which honestly in a stone age times, that's probably a good move. Once again, he's super intelligent, so he leaves, and he leaves off all on his own, and he ends up at the Garden of Eden, and in the process of heading that way, he runs into Burke, who is in the exact same situation. Burke is a much larger individual, so Vin is actually very slender, like blue eyes, red hair, really small guy, and then Burke is very large, and he had left for the same reason, and they met, and they're like, okay, well then they go to the Garden of Eden, and they're living this perfect life, etc. And whilst essentially thriving and loving each other and having this whole thing, everything is perfect, and then the Deviants attack. And when the Deviants attack, and they actually do a pretty good job defending against the Deviants. The Deviants, especially at this point in time, they have these like little multi-races, so they're not like all just like incredibly powerful like the Eternals. There's small armies of them. So they're able to defend it for a while, and then in the midst of the battle, the Garden of Eden collapses, which a sinkhole is created, and it all falls in on itself. And Vin wakes up, and he's looking for Burke, and when he finds Burke, and that's the panel you see here, he finds Burke. Burke is dead. He was crushed by boulders, and Vin is overtaken by rage. And at this exact moment, he sees the corpse of the T-Rex with the Starbrand, and he reaches out and he touches the brand, which gives him, makes him Starbrand, and he immediately transforms into this Hulk-like figure, overtaken by rage, and he kills all of the Deviants immediately, right? So then, from there, he goes off, and he's brooding. Which the reason my next notable event is called Adventures of Vin, because he does this. The plot is always the same. So in this situation, he goes off and he's brooding, and then he likes to take his rage out on bad things, especially deviants. So he kind of just shows up, beats the crap out of things, then he'll leave, and then he'll brood. Leave, beat crap out of things, leave, brood. That's sort of his situation, right? So he ends up getting recruited to the Avengers 1 million BC. Odin puts together the team in order to fight a celestial called the Fallen. So with that, what we see is Odin puts the team together. They fight the Fallen. They beat the Fallen. They lose Black Panther 1 million BC. A spoiler alert for those of you who aren't within the last almost 6 years of comic books. So anyway, they die, or he dies, and then Starbrand's like, okay, I'm out of here, screw y'all, I need to be on my own. So he goes to the moon, and he goes to the moon to brood. So he's literally chilling on the moon, and he's brooding, and then round 2 comes where we're trying to get the Avengers back together, and I believe it was Phoenix picks him off the moon. They take him, they fight another situation, which I'm having trouble remember what the prehistoric Masters of Evil. And then he goes off to brood again, and then Odin goes and gets him for the birth of Thor, which is really cool. So in the second or third run of prehistoric Avengers 1 million BC, you actually get to see the birth of Thor and Thor's mother Gaia, and all those things kind of play out. And then King Laufey's trying to kill him. So there's a cool fight there. And then eventually we have the final one up to this day, and we have he's brooding, and he gets pulled, and now he's red for some reason, and he gets pulled into the present day where they fight the regular Avengers, and then Doom Supreme comes down, and this is, like God Doom more or less, and Doom Supreme is like, hey, y'all need to back off right now, and Starbrand's like, you can't do anything to me, I'm pretty much the Hulk. And Doom Supreme just kills him immediately, dead, and that's the entire Vin story. You're welcome. That's all the characterization you get. That's all the things. I think his relationship, how he's like moving away from like his pain and stuff like that, could be very interesting to be explored. But that's what I just told you is the whole story of Vin. There's a lot of Starbrand out there, but it's not this Starbrand. In fact, the fact that he's called Starbrand and not Starbrand 1 million BC surprises me, because he is so specific. He's only in 3 runs of comics, and he's very much a background character. That Marvel Legacy #1 that I talked about, that his first appearance is in, if I recall, it gives that's the one that gives his backstory. And outside of that, he really doesn't have character. He barely talks because he can't. Really, the only notable time he talks, you hear a lot of people talk about how he argues with Odin on who actually is the one that like took out the Fallen, like last hit on the Fallen. But other than that, he doesn't say much. He just gets mad, and he goes and sits in a corner. And anytime somebody recruits him, he's always looking for another fight because he just wants to take his rage out. So he very much feels like a Gamma character, but technically he's not, even though he straight up looks like it. So anyway, that's Vin for that. Power level. Marvel Strike Force doesn't care about power levels, but here on Frosty Features, we do. Now, the way this works, if you are a multiversal threat, you are a threat to all of reality and can topple the multiverse at a whim. If you are a universal threat, you can end your reality. Perhaps hop on over to another reality and end that one by one style. Cosmic means you are a threat on a planetary scale. You can take out things like a planet or a solar system or a small galaxy with enough time and effort. Nuclear means that you have power equivalent to that of a nuclear bomb, leveling things like small cities or a planetary body, once again with enough effort. Super soldier means that you are capable beyond all capabilities of humans, trained beyond the peak of human beings. Therefore, you can level things like brick walls or, with enough time, a city block. City means that you are a human being that is trained to the absolute and utter peak of human ability. In Marvel, this is where we see a lot of our mercenaries, our secret agents, and things like that. And Greg is the undead Asgardian that Hela spawns in Marvel Strike Force, and when he is left to his own devices and left alone, he isn't anything to be worried about. So, if I am alone in a dark alley in the back streets of New York City, and all I have is a small teaspoon covered in the end hot sauce, and Greg comes upon me, I theoretically could jam this in his eye, I as a regular human being, and I could jab this in his eye and ruin his day and life, and theoretically could take Greg in a fight. So for the sake of argument and undead Asgardian physiology, I am equating Greg to the level of a regular human being. So, in the case of Starbrand, especially Vin, all of the Starbrands have a similar power source. The Starbrands are very much like Green Lanterns in the DC universe in that their powers are limited to their imagination. So Vin, being hyper intelligent, could use them, but he's overcome with rage so bad that he can't really concentrate. So he has a very impressive feat. He has a situation where at once he fights Thor and... Are you fucking kidding me? He fights... Okay. He has a very impressive feat. He fights Thor, the Incredible Hulk, and Hyperion, which is a Marvel knockoff Superman, all at the same time, and he's able to take them all out. So if you have an idea of where any of those people rank in a system that is similar to this, you know that Starbrand is firmly in the cosmic area, even arguably up to Universal. He has no feats that are at a universal level necessarily, but due to the fact that all Starbrand's powers are kind of limited to their imagination, he has the potential, and even to kind of further solidify he's above nuclear, there is a situation where the Starbrands take out a bunch of nuclear warheads all at the same time. The Starbrand has the power, especially when they pass their brand, and this happens like I think 3 times in the comics at least, they pass their brand to an inanimate object. The resulting explosion is nuclear in nature, potentially even larger than that. So very much high-end cosmic, debatably low-end universal, but we don't see powers that are quite that wide, but there's the potential. It's there. With all that being said, the According to Scopely is kind of awful. They didn't try at all. None of it's necessarily wrong, but all of it is very, very... It's more vague than regular for them. It does say that it implies right here where it says... Deviants attacked him and he fell into a deep chasm where he found the corpse of a dinosaur that possessed a Starbrand. Yeah, so that all happens. It just leaves out the thing about Burke. Like he only has one. He has one story, right? So you don't bring up his lover. You don't bring up the fact that he's angry in the way he is because of his lover's death, right? So none of that is brought up in here. It pretty much is just that he was by himself and then he ran into the dinosaur. And he really, the whole thing with countless threats is a little weird because it very much is like 4. So I feel like they kind of, somebody skimmed a Wikipedia or something and was like, this is who that character is. That's great. Anyway, that's Frosty Features Starbrand. I hope that you all enjoyed it. As a reminder, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe this here on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything but a couple of clicks. And also, I stream on Sundays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time at the link above where we do Frosty Features live. Also, please let me know in the comments your favorite Starbrand moments in the comics. There's a lot, just maybe not with Vin, but I'd love to hear them. Or if I got anything wrong or anything that I missed, please let me know. I'd love to hear it. I hope that you all have a fantastic weekend. Most importantly, y'all, stay cool.